He thought he needed sleep to find peace, until he discovered he needed peace to sleep. Noah Whitman was 17 years old, but he felt ancient. Not in body. His body was young, restless, trapped in a small bedroom in his mother's house. But his mind? His mind felt weathered, exhausted, like an old engine that had been running without oil for far too long. It was 3:47 a.m. when he checked his phone again. The cracked screen cast a cold blue light across his face, highlighting the dark circles that had become permanent features. Outside, the neighborhood was silent. Inside Noah's skull, a war raged. College applications, money we don't have, mom working 2 jobs. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Climate change, the world ending, my appearance, that stupid thing I said 3 years ago, everything, all of it, always. His thoughts were like dominoes, one knocked into another, until his entire mental landscape was a sprawling disaster. He'd tried to stop it. God knows he'd tried. There were meditation apps on his phone, 7 of them. Premium subscriptions his mother had quietly paid for, money she couldn't spare. He'd listened to sleep sounds until the artificial rain began to feel like mockery. He'd drunk chamomile tea until he hated the taste. He'd tried breathing exercises until he felt like he was drowning in his own lungs. Nothing worked. The insomnia had started small 6 months ago. A night here and there when anxiety kept him up before a test. Then it became twice a week. Then 4 times. Now it was every night. A cruel, exhausting routine where his body begged for rest, but his mind refused to grant permission. His room was both sanctuary and prison. Peeling wallpaper. A desk covered in half-finished homework. Posters he'd put up at 14 that no longer reflected who he was. Or maybe they did. And that was the problem. He didn't know who he was anymore. Just someone tired, someone scared. Noah's father had left when he was 10. Just gone. One day there, next day a note on the kitchen table and an empty closet. His mother never talked about it, just started working more hours. They lived parallel lives in the same small house. Her working, him pretending to be fine. At school, Noah was invisible. Not bullied, not popular, just there. He'd perfected the art of being present without being seen. In group projects, he did the work, but let others present. In conversations, he listened, but rarely spoke. He'd learned that silence was safer than risking saying something wrong. But at night, alone with his thoughts, silence became torture. He rolled over, staring at the ceiling. There was a crack that looked like a river if you squinted. He'd traced its path 1,000 times. He knew every inch of this ceiling better than he knew himself. Maybe I'm broken, he thought. Maybe this is just how I am now. Forever. His phone buzzed. A notification from one of the meditation apps. Don't forget your nightly practice. He wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, he just turned it face down and stared into the darkness, waiting for a dawn that always came too late, after another night lost to the tyranny of his own mind. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Noah had stayed up until 6 a.m., finally fell asleep at dawn, and woke to his alarm at 7:12. 1 hour of sleep. His body felt like lead. His eyes burned. When he looked in the mirror, he didn't recognize himself. At school, he fell asleep in history class and was sent to the nurse's office. The nurse, Mrs. Ramirez, kind eyes and graying hair, asked him gentle questions he couldn't answer honestly. "Are you sleeping okay, Noah?" "Yeah, just stayed up studying." She didn't believe him. He could tell. But she let him rest on the cot for an hour, and for once, the darkness was merciful. That night, sitting in his room, Noah felt something break inside. Not dramatically, not loudly, just a quiet surrender. The moment when fighting feels more exhausting than giving up. He needed to write something down. An idea for a school project, maybe. Or maybe just to do something, anything, that wasn't lying in bed staring at nothing. He opened his desk drawer, looking for a notebook. School supplies, broken pencils, old receipts. Then, at the back, he felt it. A notebook he'd forgotten existed. Blue cover, spiral binding, slightly dusty. His mother had given it to him 2 years ago for his birthday. He'd thanked her, put it in the drawer, and never opened it. She worked so hard for everything. Every gift felt precious and heavy at once. Noah pulled it out now, ran his hand over the cover. On the first page, in her careful handwriting, she'd written, "Write whatever you want. But write, Mom." He stared at those words for a long time. Write whatever you want. But what did he want? What could he possibly write that would matter? His life wasn't worth documenting. His thoughts were poison. His future was uncertain. What was there to say? He almost put it back in the drawer, but something, exhaustion maybe, or desperation, made him pick up a pen instead. Noah sat at his desk, the blue notebook open to the first blank page, pen hovering. Write whatever you want. But the page was too empty, too full of possibility. What do you write when you don't know what to say? His mind spiraled through options. A journal entry about his day? No, too depressing. A story? He wasn't creative. Poetry? Definitely not. Lists of things he needed to do? That would just stress him out more. He was about to close the notebook when a memory surfaced. Last week, his English teacher, Mr. Patterson, the only teacher who seemed to actually see him, had mentioned something in passing. They were reading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and Mr. Patterson had said, even in the darkest circumstances, Frankl found things to be grateful for. Not to ignore suffering, but to survive it. Gratitude. The word felt foreign in his mouth. Noah didn't feel grateful. He felt tired, anxious, trapped. What did he have to be grateful for? But maybe that was the point. Maybe you don't feel grateful and then write. Maybe you write and then feel grateful. Or maybe you just write to feel something other than this. With a hand that trembled slightly, Noah wrote 3 sentences. Simple. Factual. Almost embarrassingly basic. I still have a roof over my head. I still have coffee in the morning. I still have a choice. He stared at them. They weren't profound. They weren't beautiful. They were just true. He closed the notebook. And for the first time in months, when he lay down in bed, his mind didn't immediately launch into its usual assault. It was still there, the anxiety, the fear, but quieter, like someone had turned down the volume just slightly. He fell asleep at 1:30 a.m. Not a full night's rest, but better, measurably better. When he woke up, he felt something he'd almost forgotten. Curious. Was it the writing? Or just coincidence? There was only one way to find out. The second night, Noah approached the blue notebook differently. He wasn't expecting a miracle. He wasn't even expecting it to work again. But the alternative, lying awake until dawn, felt unbearable. So he might as well try. This time, he made it a ritual. Small, deliberate actions to mark the moment as important. He cleared his desk, set the notebook in the center, turned on his desk lamp, warm light instead of harsh overhead fluorescent, found a pen he liked, blue ink, smooth writing, checked the time, 11:47 p.m. Then he opened to the next blank page. For a moment, his mind went blank. What am I grateful for today? It felt performative, forced, like he was lying to himself. But then he remembered. It didn't have to be big. It didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be true. Mom left me leftover pasta in the fridge. The sun came through my window this morning. I didn't have a panic attack today. Simple. Real. His. He read them back to himself, then closed the notebook. Slept at 12:45 a.m. The third night, he wrote, "The bus driver smiled at me. My phone still works. I'm learning something." Slept at 1:15 a.m. The fourth night. I remembered what my mom's laugh sounds like. The air was cool when I walked outside. I'm still here. Slept at 12:30 a.m. A pattern was emerging. Not perfection. Some nights were still bad. Some nights he wrote his 3 gratitudes and still lay awake for hours. But even those nights felt different. The writing created a boundary, a bookmark in his consciousness that said, "This is where the day ends. This is where I let go." The notebook became a companion, a witness. Not judging, not demanding, just there. Ready whenever he needed it. Noah began to notice changes. Subtle at first. He started looking for things during the day that he might write about later. A good song on the radio. A funny comment from a classmate. The way light hit a puddle. His brain, so accustomed to scanning for threats and problems, began, just barely, to also scan for tiny, worthwhile moments. It wasn't optimism. He wasn't suddenly happy. But there was a shift. Like his mind was a radio stuck between stations, and the static was clearing just enough to catch fragments of music. His mother noticed first. One morning, she found him in the kitchen making breakfast, something he hadn't done in months. She didn't say anything, just watched him crack eggs into a pan, her eyes soft with cautious hope. "Morning, Mom," he said. "Morning, baby." She hesitated. "You look better." "I'm sleeping a little more." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He didn't elaborate, didn't mention the notebook. It felt too fragile to explain. But he smiled at her, small, genuine, and she smiled back. 2 weeks into the practice, Noah had a realization while writing, "I talked to Mom tonight. I helped her with the bills. I feel useful." He'd started helping her manage the household finances, using some basic math skills to organize receipts and track expenses. It wasn't much, but it was something. A way to contribute, to exist beyond his own anxiety. The notebook wasn't curing him. He understood that. It wasn't erasing his problems or magically fixing his broken brain chemistry, but it was teaching him something crucial. Where you put your attention matters. Before the notebook, his attention lived exclusively in the catastrophic future or the painful past. The present was just a battleground. Now, for 3 moments each night, he practiced noticing what existed in the here and now. Not what was missing, not what might go wrong, but what was. And slowly, so slowly, he almost didn't notice, his mind was learning a new pattern. For 6 weeks, the ritual held. 3 gratitudes every night. Not always at the same time, not always in the same mood, but always done. Noah's sleep improved. Not perfection, he still had bad nights, but the average crept up. 5 hours, sometimes 6. Once, miraculously, 7. He felt human again. Almost. Then the storm came. It started with small things. A failed math test, a rejection email from a summer program he'd applied to, his mom's car breaking down, adding another financial burden they couldn't afford, the news full of disasters, wildfires, conflicts, darkness everywhere. The anxiety Noah had been managing began to claw its way back. He wrote his gratitudes, but they felt hollow. I have food. I'm still alive. I don't know. The third entry, I don't know, stared back at him like an accusation. He wanted to give up, to stop pretending that writing 3 sentences could fix anything. It felt childish, naive, like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. The bad nights returned. One night of no sleep. Then another. His thoughts accelerated back to their old violence. The notebook sat on his desk, and he hated it. Hated himself for believing in it. Hated the world for being broken. The breaking point came on a night when the city experienced a massive power outage. Thunderstorm. Lightning. Then, darkness. The whole neighborhood went black. No electricity. No lights. No internet. No distractions. Noah sat in his room, illuminated only by his phone's dying battery, and felt panic rising like floodwater. This was it. This was the proof. Nothing worked. Nothing helped. He was destined to suffer. He grabbed the blue notebook, not to write in it, but to destroy it. This stupid, useless thing. He wanted to rip out the pages, throw it across the room, burn it in the darkness. But as he opened it, his phone's flashlight caught the first page. His mother's handwriting. Write whatever you want. But write. And then, his own words from 6 weeks ago. I still have a roof over my head. I still have coffee in the morning. I still have a choice. He froze. The words hit differently now. Because in this moment, sitting in the dark, powerless, scared, those 3 things were still true. He still had shelter. He still had food. He still had choice. The storm outside hadn't changed those fundamental facts. His panic didn't erase them. The power outage didn't make them less real. Noah sat in the darkness for a long time, the notebook open on his lap. Then he did something that surprised himself. He went downstairs, found a candle in the kitchen, lit it, brought it back to his room. In the wavering candlelight, with trembling hands, he wrote, I still have hope. I can still breathe. I'm still trying. And then, something broke. Not broke like glass. Broke like a dam. All the fear, all the exhaustion, all the months of fighting poured out of him in silent sobs. He cried without sound, shoulders shaking, tears falling onto the page and smudging the ink. But it wasn't despair. It was release. Surrender, not giving up, but giving over. Letting go of the need to control his mind, fix his thoughts, perfect his sleep. Accepting that this was hard, that he was struggling, that it was okay to be struggling. The candlelight flickered, the rain pounded against the window, and Noah sat there crying and breathing, until the storm inside him matched the storm outside. Wild, but natural. Powerful, but temporary. He fell asleep sitting up, the notebook still open, the candle still burning. His mother would blow it out when she checked on him later. It was the deepest sleep he'd had in years. When Noah woke up, the power was still out, but morning light filtered through his window. He felt different. Not fixed, not cured, but clearer. The notebook lay beside him, still open to last night's entry. The ink was smudged where his tears had fallen, but the words were legible. I still have hope. I can still breathe. I'm still trying. He read them again, and understood something he hadn't before. The notebook wasn't teaching him to be grateful, so he'd feel better. It was teaching him that he could feel terrible and still notice truth. That gratitude wasn't toxic positivity or denial. It was anchoring himself to what was real when his mind wanted to drown in what was feared. For months, Noah had thought his problem was his thoughts. That if he could just stop thinking so much, stop worrying so much, stop being so much, he'd be okay. But the notebook taught him something different. You can't stop the storm of thoughts, but you can find anchors so it doesn't sweep you away. The 3 gratitudes weren't meant to silence his anxiety. They were meant to remind him that even in anxiety, life continued, that he was more than his worst thoughts, that reality contained both his suffering and small, true, good things. This wasn't cure, it was survival. And survival was enough. Over the following weeks, Noah's practice deepened. He didn't just write gratitudes. He began to notice why they mattered, what they revealed about being alive, how the smallest things could anchor the most chaotic mind. The old tree outside is still standing. Permanence exists even when I feel temporary. Mom laughed at dinner tonight. Joy is still possible even in hardship. I didn't fight with myself today. Peace isn't absence of struggle. It's truce with self. The entries became less about things he was grateful for and more about truths he was noticing. The notebook transformed from gratitude journal into philosophical practice, a way of seeing. Noah also began to notice patterns in his thinking. The nights he skipped writing, his anxiety returned stronger. The nights he wrote even when he didn't want to, he slept better. The practice wasn't magical. It was repetition teaching his brain a new pathway. Where attention goes, energy flows. He'd spent years feeding his anxiety with attention. Now he was learning to also feed the part of him that noticed beauty, truth, presence. One night he wrote, "I used to think peace was a destination. Now I know it's a practice. This is the practice." His mother found him one evening, writing at his desk. "What are you always writing in there?" she asked gently. Noah looked up, considered whether to share, decided truth was worth the vulnerability. "Things I'm grateful for, 3 every night." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Does it help?" "Yeah," he said simply. "It does." She smiled, that beautiful, tired smile that held years of her own struggles. Your grandmother used to do something like that. When she was going through her depression, she called them her truth lists. Noah felt something click into place. "Really?" "Every night. 3 truths before sleep," she'd say, "to remember that life is real, even when pain feels realer." A lineage, a practice passed down not through instruction, but through blood, through need, through the shared human experience of mind fighting itself. Noah felt less alone. Months passed, then a year. Noah's insomnia didn't disappear, but it changed. On bad nights, and there were still bad nights, he had a tool, a practice, a way back to ground. He shared the notebook practice with a few friends at school who struggled similarly. Some tried it and gave up. Others found their own version. One friend started voice recording gratitudes. Another drew them. The specific form didn't matter. The attention did. Noah didn't become a guru. He didn't start an Instagram about gratitude. He was just a kid who found something that helped and shared it quietly with others who hurt. His relationship with his mother deepened. They started having breakfast together most mornings. She taught him to cook her recipes. He helped her budget, manage bills, plan for the future. They became partners in survival. Noah applied to colleges, got accepted to a state school with financial aid, chose psychology as his major, wanted to understand the mind that had tortured him, wanted to help others lost in similar darkness. The blue notebook filled up, then another, then another. He didn't write in them every single night anymore. Some nights he didn't need to, his mind already calm. But on hard nights, the practice was there, faithful as breath. Years later, packing his childhood bedroom before moving to his first apartment, Noah found the original blue notebook in a box. He sat on his old bed, still the same cracked ceiling, same peeling wallpaper, and opened to the first page. His mother's handwriting, "Write whatever you want, but write." Then his first entry from that desperate night years ago. "I still have a roof over my head. I still have coffee in the morning. I still have a choice." He read through the pages, months of entries, evolution of thoughts, evidence of survival. Some pages were stained with tears, some written in anger, some in hope, some in surrender. All of them true. Noah closed the notebook carefully, wrapped it in a soft cloth, and placed it in a special box. He wouldn't need it every day anymore, but he'd keep it forever. Because that blue notebook, with its simple pages and ink-stained truths, had taught him the most important lesson. Peace isn't found in silence. It's practiced in small moments of attention. In noticing what's true when your mind insists only pain is real. In anchoring yourself to gratitude, not because everything is fine, but because even when nothing is fine, some things remain true. I still breathe. I still choose. I still try. In his new apartment, Noah placed a fresh notebook on his bedside table. Blue cover, spiral binding, first page blank, waiting. Not for perfection, not for cure, just for 3 truths before sleep. Because he'd learned the paradox. You don't find peace by searching for it. You practice it by noticing what's already here. And sometimes, what saves a drowning mind isn't a life raft. It's learning to anchor yourself to the small, true things that prove you're still afloat. Years later, Noah, now a therapist specializing in adolescent anxiety, keeps a box of blue notebooks in his office. When young clients come to him drowning in their own thoughts, he doesn't immediately prescribe medications or complex therapies. He hands them a notebook. "Write whatever you want," he says. But write 3 truths every night. Not about feeling better, just about noticing what's real. Some reject it. Some try and quit. Others find their own version of salvation in those simple pages. Noah never tells them it will cure them. He tells them the truth. This won't fix you. You're not broken. But it might teach your mind to rest where it used to only run. And sometimes, that's enough to survive until morning. The blue notebooks multiply, passed from hand to hand, teenager to teenager, struggle to struggle. All of them learning the same ancient practice. Gratitude at night rewires tomorrow's mind. Not because it erases pain, but because it reminds us that we are more than our pain. And sometimes, remembering that is everything. Noah didn't find his cure in prescriptions or meditations. He found it in the simple act of writing what still existed. Because sometimes, what saves an anxious mind isn't learning to think less. It's learning to notice what's true beneath the noise. 3 small truths before sleep. Anchors in the storm. Proof that even in darkness, some light remains. Noah's story reminds us that sometimes what heals an anxious mind isn't found in medicine or meditation apps. It's discovered in the simple practice of noticing what's still true when everything feels broken. So let me ask you, what 3 small truths could anchor your mind tonight? What reality are you overlooking while your thoughts race toward imagined catastrophes? If this story touched something deep in you, write the word gratitude in the comments. Let me know you stayed until the end. Tell me what city you're watching from. Your presence here matters. Subscribe and hit the bell, because every week I share stories that can transform how you see your struggles. Click the card on screen for another powerful story of transformation. And remember, peace isn't something you find. It's something you practice. 3 truths at a time.